Right now, it is time to bring in the dogs.
It is time for Pet Files Ask the Vet, underwritten by the Millerton Veterinary Practice, traditional small animal medicine and surgery, chiropractic laser therapy, acupuncture, and Chinese herbal medicine. 518-789-3440, millertonvet.com. With us today, Dr. Carolyn Cannon, owner and chief veterinary at the Millerton Veterinary Practice. Hello, Dr. Cannon.
Good morning.
That's what you think. All right. But
you have an earlier morning than I,
that's,
right?
No,
so
you
it's
just,
not so good by now?
No, you just have no idea. It was in the last half hour that it just all went seriously south. However,
see what great dog question, dog and cat and whatever else questions you have.
This is
I'm always challenged.
I'm always amazed that you can. Not because of intelligence, but they're good questions, and I never would have quite thought of them, and I'm always astounded that you can come up with an answer that's so sensible. Because,
so am I.
Well, let's see what Warren in Hartford, he wants to know about kitty litter. I use kitty litter made of pine shavings, but I'm hearing conflicting reports about whether it's really healthier for your cat than regular. I have to say it doesn't mask odor well, so if it's not that much healthier, I'm just going to stop using it.
I think the idea that it's healthier is the for the pet has to do with the dust. So you can get pine shavings with very low dust, and the least expensive cat litter is the clay litter, and sometimes is very, very dusty, not good for anyone's breathing, including whoever's changing the litter pan and pouring in the clay litter. And clay litter is not so good for the environment either, so it's not going to biodegrade like a wood shavings. That being said, you have to consider your cat's preference. So if your kitty was raised with wood shavings, and you're happy with them, then that's fine. You can get dust-free litters of other kinds. There are, I think there's one type of wood that's made into a pellet, which wouldn't have much dust. And again, it's variable in the amount of liquid that they absorb, and so you can get some odor. I think the best route to go is to find something that your cat likes, and so they will use it all the time and not go outside the pan, and that you need to clean the litter pan every day. That's always my suggestion. Not only so that you can keep the odor down and the bacteria down in the pan, but also so that you have some idea of what your animal's doing. So, does anybody have diarrhea? Is somebody flooding the litter pan? Is nobody using the litter pan? All of those types of things before, the week goes by. And if the litter box gets too full, then oftentimes cats will stop using it because they don't like they're very fastidious. They don't like a dirty poop box. And once they start going outside the box, then it becomes more difficult to get them to go back.
What is the percentage of outside the box that, not scientifically, but broadly, the percentage of going outside the box that really can be ascribed to it's like, wow, you really didn't scoop this, huh? Dirty box.
I can't tell you for sure. The ones because most of the ones that I see, I think are, are real problem, and usually it's been going on for a long time. And so I think that people catch on eventually.
Right.
They'll clean the pan, and the cat uses it the next day, but then they start using it less and less. So I probably don't see that much. So, but it does happen, and so pine shavings. You don't want to get if you want something healthy for everyone. You don't want to get something that's necessarily got a scent, an odor to it. I can't tolerate those at all. But if you get something that's going to absorb the urine, and it makes a big difference the age of your cat at times, because a young cat is going to produce not very much urine, and an older cat's going to usually produce a lot of urine. So you need something that's more absorbent, which would be the clay litters. There's newspaper litter. People are making cat litter out of all kinds of things. Better for the environment to get something biodegradable, and better for the cat to get something low
dust
and odor,
and
perfume.
Then and best for the human to also know that cats can be incredibly picky, and if they're used to something, they can go on strike pretty easily. Because that's just got to be something that's got to be weighed into the equation as well.
It does, and then they'll find a surface that they like, and surface preference is huge with cats. And same thing, everybody knows about their preference for different types of food.
Right.
My cat likes the pate, and my cat only likes the chunks, and etc. So they get into something, and that's it for a while.
Right, you're stuck. Mm-hmm. All right, Katie in Millbrook. I hear acupuncture mentioned on this show, but there's something I don't understand. I have had it done for myself, and it takes a lot of sitting still, and sometimes tolerating discomfort or even a little bit of pain, depending where the needles go. How do you get an animal to sit still for any of that? And aren't you very limited in where you can put the needles? I can't even get my cat to tolerate being petted if she's not in the mood.
We're somewhat limited in where we can put the needles, but when I get acupuncture, it's the same deal. I'm either on my back or on my stomach, and so you're not going to be sort of standing up and or lying on your needles most of the time. So you're somewhat limited in your torso needle selection. That being said, you can put needles in when they're standing up underneath in the conception vessel line or others of the anything that you need to get done underneath, basically. The meridians run, some of the meridians run underneath the animal, and then you can let them lie down. So the needles are perfectly bendable. So I think that the part of it is the animals don't have that psychological thing about needles, so they aren't so worried about the needles. And most of the patients truly are dogs, and most of the patients are older dogs. And they don't seem to have that super sensitivity unless they're very wired up. And those dogs, it's very difficult to do acupuncture that's meaningful because they never get that good relaxation that is needed for it to work well. So it is true. A Jack Russell Terrier, how often have I done acupuncture? Maybe once.
Yeah, and then you just had
Twice,
it's funny. I remember just way back at the beginning, we had someone who, we had a critter who really loved it and responded to it, and another one who was like, "Hey, do you have got any other tricks in that box?"
Right.
And that's I don't know if that's spoken about enough. Is how individual it's true of anything. It's true of absolute. This may be too broadly general. But it is different people respond to different things, and you just have to find out what that is.
Mm-hmm. And we don't do that much acupuncture on cats, but we can have cats who are laid back, who will lie right on the table, and they actually usually like their acupuncture. If they can relax a little bit for the first time, then they enjoy their acupuncture. And we can't always use, on a cat, you're not going to get needles in between the toes. You just face that fact. There is a way to do some stimulation of the points with the laser, and I have a laser machine that will do a pinpoint acupuncture spot, and so I will sometimes use the laser and the needles.
That sounds really cool. It sounds highly scientific, how do you use the laser? How do you just?
Well, the laser is on. Basically, you put the laser on the acupuncture point, very close to the point for 4 seconds. And my machine actually has an acupuncture setting on it. But you're not going to get in my opinion, I don't think you're going to get as much of a response with the laser. But some animals, it works really well. All they need is stimulation of the point. They don't need the needle manipulated or anything like that. And it is quicker. And if you do it often enough, then they have a quite good response to it.
Is that more like acupressure? Weirdly,
I think it's a little bit. I think it's more. I think you get more of a response than acupressure.
Okay.
Acupressure is a good thing. You have to do it all the time, sort of every day. The laser therapy, if you're doing it every couple of weeks, you should have a good response with it. Acupuncture with the needles, it takes longer, and you may, in some dogs, get a better response. There's just not enough research out there yet on the laser acupuncture to know exactly what it's doing.
Okay. Mark in Danbury, I got a lecture from a dog trainer the other day about how superior a raw diet is even to cooked meat, which is what I give my Dobie mix. It made me wonder if the guy ever went on a trip with his dogs further than the corner store. I mean, raw meat does not keep well in a picnic cooler for very long. And what about parasites, E. coli, and all the reasons that human beings aren't supposed to eat raw meat? Guess I'm just venting, but maybe you could explain what's so much better about raw.
Well, there's a lot to this question. So I don't want to just answer and condone the feeding of cooked meat to your dog, just cooked meat. So you need to feed a complete and balanced diet. So just cooking some hamburger and feeding him that every day is not going to be okay. They need to have, and the reason we talk more about raw diet is because most people don't formulate their own. You can purchase raw meat diet frozen, and it's easy to do. It's got ground bone in it or added calcium, so the calcium is balanced in the diet and oftentimes has the vitamins and minerals that you need or the recommendation to get a vitamin mineral supplement. You really have to be, if you're feeding this over long term, you have to be very careful that your pet is getting all of the minerals and the vitamins that they need. So that being said, raw food in a young dog especially, or a very vigorous dog, it provides all the enzymes that they need in order to digest the food. So it's more digestible in that sense as far as breaking down nutrients in the food. You're losing some of those things when you cook the meat. But some dogs and people can't tolerate raw anything, and they don't have the digestive energy to completely get what they need from the food, or it takes too much effort for them, for their bodies, and they have signs of gastrointestinal problems because of it. So raw diet isn't for everybody, but the animals that are vigorous enough to eat it, it slows down the rate of digestion, which is an excellent way to keep weight normal. And also, it doesn't, so the nutrients aren't absorbed as quickly. If you absorb nutrients quickly and you're a dog, your pancreas doesn't deal with it that well. You get very high spikes of insulin in response to the quick digestion of, for instance, processed food, and that can set up inflammation. So we all want to eat an anti-inflammatory diet, and raw diet or even a home-cooked real food diet is preferred. When you do your own diet, you need to use books to do that. You need to know what you're doing, and my recommendation is to use Balance It. You can go to balanceit.com, put in what you're feeding or what you would like the diet to be, put in your dog's problems, and they will formulate a specific vitamin mineral supplement for you so you make sure that your pet gets everything that they need. The alternative to that is the use of veterinary nutritionist to formulate a home-cooked diet.
And that's if you're cooking.
Yeah. Did that answer the question?
It started, as you said, there are so many layers to that question that...
Yeah, so the raw has a slower transit time than cooked. The raw doesn't lose the enzymes that get lost in cooked meat. However, a cooked, home-formulated balanced diet can be almost as good as a raw diet.
And what's with the almost, I guess, and the E. coli? I once asked about...
So that's the reason to get your dog food from a company.
Right.
And not feed it from the grocery store.
Because
so they're only allowed a certain number of bacteria, more in line with what's fed on a processed diet, whereas the food that you're buying at the store, at Stop and Shop, wherever, is allowed to have more E. coli because they're assuming that it's going to be cooked by humans, for humans.
And same would go for Whole Foods or anything like that, right?
What do you mean by Whole Foods?
Whole
Foods Market?
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
It's true. It's not just your local. You can't say
federal, I believe it's federal laws that
determine how much of XYZ. It's same is true for organic, boys and girls. There's a lobby, and you can have X amount of thus and such in something, and because of the assumption that it's going to be cooked, if you're just lashing it out naked to your dogs, you could be in difficulty.
You could, and actually, I haven't experienced a lot of problems with raw food in general, but have experienced one case of salmonella in a dog that wasn't on raw food. So it's the jury's still out.
How did you even know?
Pardon?
How did you know it was salmonella?
Fecal,
it have to
fecal
be tested.
culture, lots and lots of tests.
But lots of tests,
including a fecal culture.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, because I wouldn't think that that's
and an ultrasound showing that the colon was thickened.
Because I wouldn't. That's
something that
probably not the first thing that you.
No.
Okay.
Try to all the other things that are common.
Right.
And they didn't work, so then you have to go to
Next.
looking for things.
Right. No, that's pretty interesting. And I just because of I had a bizarre-ish, so I'm going to use your show to talk about it for 1 second, conversation with somebody about the romaine situation during Thanksgiving week. And I found that they didn't understand that the reason that the blanket no romaine was issued was because bunches of people were getting together to eat bunches of things, and there was no way to figure out where the tainted romaine was coming from before everyone went shopping. So it was just more efficient to say, no romaine, that's it. Because the person had said, well, it's now romaine from California. And the person said, well, it's any romaine. And I said, no, it doesn't, it doesn't actually work that way. It's...
Right. The romaine lettuce isn't spreading a disease.
Right.
It's, But, I guess the safest thing to do is what the federal government does, which is pull everything off the market if they can't figure out what it is, where the tainted is coming from. The interesting thing is, my understanding is, and the one thing that I read, because I haven't kept up on it, is that it comes from different farms, and so it's got to be, I would think, something environmental that's causing that to happen on different farms that are in widely spread apart areas. Is that true?
Not
from what you've read?
Not necessarily. It's widely apart, but it has more to do with a human component that I'm not going to go into.
Contaminates the ground. Yeah.
I'm not going to go into first thing in the morning. Bearing in mind that my brother, when he saw me, he once caught me not washing lettuce. And he was like, "Duh, you can't." He said, "We grow. No, wash."
So even if it's pre-washed, to wash it.
It's not. Yeah. Well.
Or even if it's organic, to wash it.
You should wash it.
Yeah.
You should wash it.
But the pre-washed lettuce is
if it's triple washed and that's what the person's up to, by and large, you are okay. But you shouldn't just grab a leaf. Yeah, you grab a head of lettuce off the from the box that came from the farm. You, definitely wash that. I'm not talking about pre-wash per se. I'm just saying it comes off the ground, wash it.
Yeah.
I'm told that it was very annoying to me personally. I'm told that we have about a minute.
Okay.
I don't know. Can you get through the? I don't even.
Have you got a short question?
I'm looking. Nick in Torrington. Somebody told me that cats have their own kind of herpes virus. How do they give it to each other? Can it be transmitted to human beings?
Cats do have herpes virus 1, and it's called feline rhinotracheitis virus. It is transmitted usually, so it's cats who are younger, who are more susceptible to it. They can catch it as young as about 5 weeks old or so. And it infects the nose and sinuses and, basically respiratory tract, sometimes the throat too. So it is upper respiratory symptoms is what you're seeing. And cats can get quite ill. Kittens can die from this herpes virus causing this horrible respiratory disease, and that's why we have a vaccination against it. So the RCP, the R in there, is for rhinotracheitis. So they give it to each other through nasal secretions, the spreading of nasal secretions. So it's something that 20 years ago used to see at the farms with all the cats, with 20 cats, and these kittens would all be completely plugged up with respiratory disease. some of them not eating, and so they would die for that reason. We don't see herpes virus that often anymore, but it can be transmitted, usually like a cold, but it also can be dormant in cats who have it and can spread it without a lot of symptoms.
And can it be transmitted to humans as we say goodbye?
Oh, it can't be, no.
Okay.
So there's no zoonotic potential for that virus, but it's very highly contagious between cats. And so you want to make sure that your cat is, if your cat goes outside at all, but even it is something that you could potentially carry in the house on a fomite, which is a little piece of dirt or something that is carrying the virus. So cats should be well protected when they're young, especially.
Thank you very much. As always, Dr. Cannon. This has been Pet Files Ask the Vet, underwritten by the Millerton Veterinary Practice, 518-789-3440, millertonvet.com.